Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday school. Let's all stand as we sing together. Let's sing When We All Get to Heaven. I think, yeah. On the first. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus. Sing His mercy and His grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, He'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory on the last. Onward to the prize before us, soon His beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open, we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
Well, that's the blessed hope that God has given to us, assuring us that when we leave this earth, we'll spend eternity with Him in heaven. That's a blessing, isn't it? Well, let's come, Lord, in prayer this morning. Let's bow our head. Father in heaven, we come before You again humbly with thanksgiving, realizing, oh God, we are just sinners saved by grace. Thank You for sending Your only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for us to pay the penalty of our sin. Thank You, Lord, for His shed blood that gave us, Lord, that atonement that You have received us as Your children. So, Lord, thank You again as we are gathered before You this morning. I pray, Father God, that You will bless Brother Arnell as he teaches during the Sunday school hour. May You give him, Lord, unction that You only can give to, Lord, to give You the message of instruction to Your people, because we believe in the power of Your precious word. Your word changes lives, and we need to be changed to conform to the image of Your Son, Jesus Christ, that our character, oh God, may be like Him. So, Lord, I ask now, Lord, for Your presence and for Your guidance, and thank You for the many answered prayers. In Christ's most precious name, I ask all these things. Amen. But now will now come to teach us Sunday school.
Okay, let's open up our Bible in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 12 will continue about the life of Abraham. Genesis chapter 12. Okay, we're now in lesson 34, which is we're gonna study about Abraham and Lot. Okay, but on Genesis chapter 12, we began our study last week about Genesis chapter 12, and we say that Abraham, okay, we see the faithfulness of this man right here. And on the study that we have last week, there was a promise that God gave it to him. And what was that promise? Based on Genesis chapter 12. Okay. Genesis chapter 12, it is in verse 2. That was what the promise of God is to Abram. You know that the father of Abram was Terah, and Terah was an idolater. He worshipped Sin, or Nun, the moon god. And God had told him, Abram, that, hey, you need to separate yourselves from your kindred. You need to separate yourselves from all your relatives. So who came with Abraham during that time? His wife, Sarah, and who else? His household, and one other guy. Lot. Okay, so Lot, Abraham, Sarai, and their household with all their goods, they separated themselves from Terah and Terah's family, or Abram's father. And based from our study last week, we said that Terah is an idolater. Okay, he worshipped other gods. Okay, and this was a promise of God to Abram. On verse 2, he said, "And I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed." So that was the promise. I will make thee a great nation. Okay. We know that Abraham died with how many sons? How many sons when he died? Remember, two, right? One was the mistake. He go ahead of God. Okay, Ishmael. And the other one was who? Isaac. So there's two sons. Okay, so Ishmael and Isaac. So those are the times. But when he died, what was the promise of God? He will be a father of great nations. Did he seize it in his lifetime? Remember, also in the passages of scriptures that we're going to learn this time, or we're going to see this time, that his promise, the promise of God also is his kindred, or the nation will be like the sand. Okay, so the multitude, it is a big nation, but it never materialized in his lifetime. In fact, he only has two sons. And the promise was for his son through Isaac. Okay, that was the promise. Okay, so we studied also last week that Abraham is not actually looking forward to anything on this world, but he is looking forward to heaven. Okay, but imagine yourself in the shoes of Abraham. He will be leaving the comfort of his family to go on a land that he doesn't know. When God told him, "Hey, go separate yourselves from your father Terah, and and go to a place that I will tell you." So he moved right away. He didn't say, "Hey, Lord, reveal to me first where I'm going." Hey, it basically Abraham said, "Hey, I will go." That's what Abraham told God. Instead of questioning God, "Lord, show me the land first, show me where I would be going." Instead, he went. And afterwards, God revealed to him that it will be the land of Canaan. That is the promise of God. Okay, so continuing on our study on chapter 12, okay, notice on verse 10. Okay, so on chapter 12, verse 1 to verse 11, and verse 9, we see here that Abraham went to where God had told him to do. But on verse 10, it says in there, "And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land." So what does that verse tells us? From one instance, he trusted God and said, "Hey, I will go," even though I did not know the place. And then later on, God had revealed to him the place. And then this time, where there was famine in the land of Canaan, Abraham decided to move his family into Egypt. What was that all about? We see here that Abraham, right? Abraham, his faith was all the way up here. He's saying to God, "God, I will be going. Okay, no matter what, I don't know where I'm going. I'll just make the first step." But this time, there was famine in the land, and then he said, "Hey, I'm going to Egypt." What was God told Abram? Where should he be staying? In Canaan, right? In the promised land. But instead, because of famine, he went to Egypt. God never told him to go to Egypt, okay? But yet he went to Egypt. So in here we can see that Abraham is just like you and me. Okay, he got his moments also. He got his weakness at some times. For sure, for us, compared to Abraham, we have more weaknesses than probably what Abraham does. Okay, but this time, right here, we can see that Abraham is a man who makes also mistakes. Right here, he was told to stay in Canaan. What do you think will happen if he stayed in Canaan, even though there was a great famine? Would God be able to sustain him? Yes. Because all throughout, from chapter 1 of the book of Genesis up to the chapter 12, we see the faithfulness of God. We see the sovereignty of God. We see the power of God. Okay? So in here, there's no reason why Abraham should be moving to Egypt. Okay? God could sustain him even in famine. Okay? Verse 11, and it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Hey, not only Abraham decided for himself that he will be moving out on the promised land that God had promised them. At the same time, he is afraid for his life. And now he is telling his wife, hey, instead of you introducing yourselves to be my wife, why don't you introduce yourself as my sister? It is true that it is Sarah is his half sister, but at the same time, he should have introduced also that she is his wife. So verse 14. Verse 13 says, Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. So not only is he afraid of the famine, now he is afraid that something will happen to him because he married a beautiful wife. That's what he's basically saying. Hey, so what is Abram telling God now? Lord, you cannot protect me. You cannot sustain me in famine. You cannot protect me in a foreign land because of my wife. Okay? Last week, we studied about the faithfulness of Abram, and we see that he is a faithful man. In fact, his name was written down, or he was mentioned specifically in Hebrews chapter 11, the faith chapter, right there, that his faith, okay, he has faith in God. But this time we see a different person right here. We see his weakness also. Okay. Verse 15. The prince also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to the Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and he asses and men servants and maid servants and she asses and camels. 17. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because Sarah, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done to me? Why dost thou now tell me that she was thy wife? Why sayest thou she is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded these men concerning him that they sent him away, and his wife and all that he had. So in fact, in spite of all these things, okay, he did not trust God during the famine. He did not trust God that he would protect him during the time that he was in Egypt. Still, God protected him. God has preserved him. Okay. Now, going to chapter 13, okay, and Abram went out of Egypt, and he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. So now, he's going back to the promised land, instead of just staying in Egypt. Verse 2, and Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. Verse 3, and he went into his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abraham called on the name of the Lord. So, from full circle, right? So, he went out of the promised land, now he's back to where he's supposed to be. Okay, that's the first, he erected an altar right there okay, to worship God. He was back in Hebron. Okay, and now on chapter 13, verse 5, we'll begin our study between Abram and Lot. Who is Lot? We got that. He's the nephew, right? He is the son of Abram's brother. Okay, verse 5, and Lot also, which went Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. So we can see here, okay, Abram and Lot. It is said that Abraham has what? Very much gold, silver, things like those. Also Lot, but compared to who is the richest between the two, we can say that Abraham is more richer than Lot is. Okay. Verse 6, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. So an issue came up. So what was the issue? Because of the things that they have, the land itself cannot support their herd. The land itself could not support the families. Okay, so there is a fight. Okay, verse 7, and there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelt then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyselves, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. So what is all going on right here? There is a land, right? It was a promised land, but so many things, they have so many things, so many herds, so many animals, that they would not fit into one land. The land itself could not support the herd. Okay, where they at right now. Aside from that, there's 2 tribes also that was in the area during that time. So the land itself, okay, is not enough to contain whatever they have. So they have to move. Look, Abraham was in here. Okay, we can see Abraham, who is the eldest between the two. So obviously, it's Abraham, right? It is the oldest, and Lot is the youngest. And yet, we see here, Abraham is offering Lot what? Normally, during those times, the elder between the two can pick. Okay, Abraham could tell Lot, hey, I want this land, you can move on the other land, because he is the elder one between the two of them. Okay, but instead of telling Lot, hey, I choose this, you choose your own. Okay, he made the decision that he will have Lot choose whatever he wants, and if Lot choose one, and he will go on the other direction, and he will not join in. So what Abraham is saying, okay, verse 10, and Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed the Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. So what did Lot see? What did he see? He see the plain of Jordan. And what can be compared to the land of Jordan, or the plains of Jordan? It is right there. Okay. It says in there, like the land and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, and as thou comest unto Zoar. It was compared to what? Eden. So imagine, Eden is a wonderful place. It has everything. It got the water, it got the vegetation and everything. So this land, this plain of Jordan, is also like that. It is compared to that. So surely this land can support life and all the herds that Lot have. So he was eyeing this. Okay, he was eyeing that, hey, this is the place that I will settle in. Okay, verse 11, then Lot chose him all the plains of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, the one from the other. Verse 12, Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched the tent toward Sodom and Gomorrah, towards Sodom. Verse 13, but the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Okay, so the verses we just have read, okay, so here's the land. It was a good land. It can be compared to the Eden. Okay, it can support the herds. It can be a good place. But what is the catch on this land? It is near Sodom. Okay, and what did God said about Sodom? But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. That's what God had said, right? So we can see here, okay, hey, this land is good, but you will be near Sodom, which is a weaker or a wicked nation. Did Lot made a good choice then? I don't think so, right? So basically, Lot have seen what is good, but he never saw what is bad in the area at the same time. He did not consider everything else. What he saw is good, so he should be grabbing it. That's what in his mind, okay? But later on, it says in there that he is near Sodom, a place of wickedness. Next week, we're going to study about Sodom and Gomorrah and what was the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? But for now, we will study on these two men, Abram and Lot, okay? We can see here there was some scholars or some Bible scholars believe that, hey, what was the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah? Sodom beating the Sodomites, homosexuality, right? That's what others believe, but some others believe that, hey, God destroyed this place because of their not being hospitable to the two angels. That was what other people believe, and that would we be studying next week. Okay, what is the real reason why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? Okay, the later explanation that they are not hospitable to those two angels was so wrong. Okay, and we'll discuss it next week. But for this time, we will discuss about Lot and Abram. Okay, so two men right here, two decisions has been made. Abraham will go to Canaan, Lot will go to plains of Jordan. Plains of Jordan is a good place compared to land of Canaan. Okay, anybody, some of us have gone to Israel, right? So how can you describe these lands right here, the land of Canaan? Those people who went in there. So how is the place? Desolate, right? If you can see or you can picture it, okay, they're describing the plains of Jordan as a nice place. Compared to Canaan, it's a lot of rocks, a lot of hills, a lot of things, okay? So if you're gonna be there, okay, not knowing that Sodom is a wicked place, then you probably say the same thing as Lot have said. Hey, I want that land because it will support my herd. Okay, but still, two decisions has been made. Okay, Abraham chooses to follow God, which is in Canaan, and then Lot chooses the plains of Jordan. Notice also the decisions on how they came about. Abraham was thinking about the welfare of Lot. Instead of saying, he could have tell Lot, hey, I want that land. I'm elder. I'm richer. I should be getting that land. And yet, he told Lot, hey, go ahead and choose the land, and I will go in a different direction. Okay? So, we can see here the mindset of two men right here. Okay. For Lot, he was thinking about himself. He was thinking, hey, what could I have get from this? Or what I could benefit from this. Abraham's thinking was, hey, you choose for your own benefit. Okay? So, in here, we can see the two men, the condition of how these men think. The other guy, Abraham, was thinking of others, while Lot was thinking about himself. In a real-time world scenario that we have right now, okay, we have that phrase, dog eat dog. Right? It's basically, in order for you to advance, you got to step on somebody. Okay? So, in here, we can see how Abraham's thinking is. He's not about, hey, I'll advance myself, I don't care what happens to you. Okay? He's thinking about, hey, and later on this chapter 14, we'll see that even though they separated ways, okay, Abraham still thinks about his nephew. Okay, going back to our text, chapter 14. Okay, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Eleazar, Chedolai, Merok, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shina, king of Adma, and Shemeber, king of Seboim, and the king of Berla, which is Soar. And these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the salt sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and the 13th year they rebelled, and in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Sumims in Ham, and the Ammonites in Shaven, Kiriath-Taim, and the Horites, and their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the country of the Amalekites and all the Amorites that dwell in Hazezot Tamar. And there went out of the king Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, the king of Seboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. So there is a battle between kings. One group of kings under Chedorlaomer, okay, the other kings paid tribute, including Sodom and Gomorrah, and then Sodom and Gomorrah and the other kings rebelled against this king. So there was a great battle, and guess what? Who is in the middle? Lot is in the middle, because if you see the plains of Jordan, if you see the map of the Israel during those times, you can see the Dead Sea right here, and then the nations that we're talking about is right here at the edge of the southern part of the Dead Sea. So these nations right here rebel against the stronger king. That's basically it. And Abraham was where? In the plain of Jordan, which is near Sodom and Gomorrah. So there was a fight between kings, and he is right there in the middle. Okay? Verse 11. Okay, so, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way. So who lost? Sodom and Gomorrah and the kings that were allied to them. And guess what? Where Lot is? He went with them, right? Because he was near Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 12, and they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Hey, in the minds of Lot during that time, hey, I'd like that piece of land, the plains of Jordan. Okay? Now this time, because there was a war, instead of getting a nice place, instead of, hey, I will be retiring in here, he got in between the kings. And when Sodom and Gomorrah got defeated, he was taken away by these men to be a slave. Okay? Verse 13, and there came one that had escaped and told Abraham the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and there were confederate with Abram. And when Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. So there was a great battle, and Lot and his family and everything that Lot had was taken away. They were taken captive, okay, but by this king. And if you notice how far is Dan during that time, okay, because they pursued them up to Dan, right, the place, okay, it's about 150 miles from where is Abraham is staying. 150 miles. During those times, what do you think? How long would those men catch up, or how long or how fast they can travel 150 miles? Nowadays, 150 miles probably is from here to what? LA? In a fast car, driving around 65 to 70 miles an hour, 2.5 to 3 hours, right? Notice in here, okay, Abraham pursued the men, okay, about 150 miles from where he is from, with 318 men, okay, trained men. For Abraham to pursue a king, much less a person who defeated other kings with 318 men, for us, we could think that Abraham was crazy, right? 318 men to pursue the king's men right there, 150 miles. Imagine if they are pursuing these men right here who took Lot as their captives, okay, 150 miles, how tired are those men? I'm pretty sure they're tired because they're probably riding their horses or something, or walking most of the times, but it takes a while to catch up with them, for those. Probably you would say, if I was Abram, I would say, hey, why would I do that? Right? He chose to leave another place. We parted ways. Why would I be concerned about the safety of my nephew? Right? So what would happen if I got defeated, if I pursued these men, and I only have 318 men, and these 318 men got perished, what would happen to my family? And yet, what did Abram do? He pursued, okay? He pursued the king, okay? The captors of Lot. Okay, verse 12, and they took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods in the part, and they can. Wait, okay. Verse 15. 14, so it starts on verse 14. And when Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. 318 men pursued. They're tired. Okay? How many probably are the men that they were pursuing? Remember, these men that that conquered Sodom and Gomorrah, in order for them to conquer Sodom and Gomorrah and other nations, they got to have a lot of people to do that. It's got to be more than 318, more than what Abraham has. And in order for them to watch over Lot and all the rest of their captives, it has to be greater than 318. And yet, Abram and his 318 men prevailed. And not only did they have, okay, they didn't say they lose somebody, but also on verse 16, it says that he brought back all the goods and also brought back again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Is it on the power of a 318 men to do this feat? 318 men against an army. That is something. Even if you add up, okay, it will not add up. The odds are against Abraham, and yet, what was the promise of God to Abraham? That he will be great and that he will be the father of a great nations. If he will be the father of a great nation, would something happen to Abraham? Would he get killed or something? If God promised him that he would be a father of great nations, do you think anything will happen to Abraham? No, I don't think so, right? He was promised that he will be the father of a great nation. And when he did what is right, okay, he followed God, God protected him with 318 men against an army. Okay. We can see here the hand of God in the life of Abraham right here. Okay. Verse 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer and of the kings that were with him in the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. Okay. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And he blessed be the Most High God, which had delivered thine enemy into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all. Okay. Melchizedek. Okay. What was the name? Melchizedek. Okay. He was briefly mentioned in here, okay, but he was also mentioned, okay, on the New Testament. Okay. So what is or who is Melchizedek? Okay, let's go to Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews chapter 7, starting on verse 1. Okay. He was briefly mentioned in the book of Genesis right there on chapter 14, but we can see also in Hebrews chapter 7 a more description of who he is. Okay. For this Melchizedek, verse 1 on chapter 7, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. Salem meaning it is Jerusalem. It's an old name for Jerusalem. Okay. Verse 3, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch of Abraham gave the tenth of the spoils. Okay? So, Melchizedek right here, okay, it gave us a brief description of who he is on Hebrews chapter 7. Okay, he is the king of Salem, he is the king of peace, he is the king of Jerusalem. Verse 3 says, without a father, without a mother. Okay, so it means that he wasn't born king, because he wasn't. Normally for a king, okay, on a generation of the king, he would say, hey, this is the king 1, king 2, king 3, and the son. If you notice on David, King David, it mentions the king, the genealogy of the kings, right? But this time, it was mentioning that Melchizedek was without a father, without a mother, without a descent, having a neither beginning day and end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abided a priest continually. Okay? So, in here, we can see that, hey, this man is a man. Okay? And yet, he is got no father or mother, is saying that, hey, he wasn't born a king, but he was appointed as king. Everybody with me this right? So in here we can see here, okay, that he is an appointed king. Okay, and Abraham, going back to our text, Abraham recognized him as such. And it was also first mentioned of the word tithes, right here, the tithes. Okay, and he gave this a portion of the tithes, which is 10% of whatever Abraham have taken back. Okay. So in here, okay, we'll see also on our next study, okay, Melchizedek is the high priest, but we have a more perfect high priest, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And we can see here on our next study that we have right here on the book of Genesis that the priesthood, okay, notice Melchizedek is in the priesthood on the Levite side, okay, it wasn't mentioned on the Levites or things like those. We know that the Levites, okay, are priests on the Israelites, okay, but it never mentioned that the Levites came by Melchizedek's line. Okay, so but Abraham recognized him as the high priest. Okay, and in fact he gave him the tithes. Okay. Going back to our text on chapter 14, okay, verse 18, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies unto thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, so this time, you notice on the battle of the kings, Sodom's king was first defeated. So this must be a new king that the Sodom has have right now. Okay, and the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, and that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which have went with me, Aner, Eshol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. Okay, so what is Abraham is saying here? Okay, he recognized Melchizedek as a high priest, and he in fact gave him a portion of the spoils. But this time, the king of Sodom, the new king of Sodom, is telling him, hey, just give me the persons, just give me the people, and you can take everything else. Why would Abraham would not take the goods? During those times, hey, if I recover something, it's mine. Because somebody already take it. If somebody take it and I take it myself, then it's mine already. Why would Abraham refuse the offer of the king? Say it. Yep. Basically, he doesn't want to do anything with the king of Sodom. Okay? Because if he accepted the gifts of the king, then probably he will be indebted to that king also. That everything the king wants, the king will probably, he would obey it, because people would say, hey, he got enriched because of those that the king of Sodom gave him. Okay. Notice what he said on verse 22. I have lifted mine eyes, I lift up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth. He recognized his victory comes from God. This is where the phrase El Elyon, which is God the Most High. Okay. But he recognized that God is God. He is sovereign right here. That the victory that he has with 318 men against those kings and their men comes from God. It didn't come from him. It didn't come from anybody else but God himself. He gave the glory to God. At the same token, he would not accept the gifts of Sodom, the king of Sodom, because he would not want to be associated with Sodom. What was the difference between Lot then, knowing that, hey, Abraham would not even get associated with Sodom and Gomorrah, and yet Lot wanted the plains of Jordan, which is near Sodom and Gomorrah. That is the main difference between the two people, the two men that we are studying right now, Abram and Lot. Lot would take a risk and go near a place that God had said, this is a wicked nation. Okay. What's the danger of us as Christians playing with fire? We'll get burned. Okay. This is what we can learn from the life of Abram and Lot. Lot said, hey, I need or I want that land because it is good no matter what, even though it is near Sodom and Gomorrah. I wanted that place. I can protect myself. I will not be associated with the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah, but I want that place. That was the mindset of Lot. But this time we see the mindset of Abram. Hey, I would not accept anything from Sodom and Gomorrah, the king of Sodom, because I don't want to be associated with the wickedness of that nation. Okay. How can we apply it now to our Christian life? Knowing the mindset of these men right here, how can we apply it to our Christian life? Stay as far away from sin. That's what Abraham is doing right here. Lot did not see it, but Abraham saw it. Okay, even though we see on chapter 12 that Abraham sometimes forget about God, that he falls short, and yet he would follow God, that he would rather be with God than be with luxury. Okay, that's the main difference. Like, for example, okay, appearance of sin. Okay, how many of us like buffets? I like. It's sad that we don't have buffets anymore, but I like buffets, especially seafoods, right? What's this casino that offers free lobster? Hey, they offer free lobster, right? Hey, I'm just gonna eat the lobster. I would not even go to the to those machines. I'll just pass by. I would even do this. That way I would not see those machines. Same thing with Lot right there, right? Lot would say probably, hey, I would not even go to Sodom and Gomorrah. I just want this place because it is a good place for the herd. It's a good place for my family. Hey, lobsters are good, right? You can eat all the lobsters that you wanted on those eat or you can casinos, right? When you see people in the casinos, when those coins started going down, how does that affect you? For those people who doesn't go to casinos, yeah, they will never know, right? But for us, sometimes before we become even Christians, we know the feeling whenever you hear those coins falling. It entices you to do the same thing, right? It entices you to do the same thing. Those coins droppings is like music to your ears. That if you hear those things, your coins dropping on those that is pouring down, I think you will take a look and glance at it instead of just going your way. Another thing, what would happen if you see Sister Emmy and Pastor going out of the casino because they ate on those eat-all-you-can buffets? Oh, Pastor and Sister Emmy was Pastor and Sister Emmy was going to the casino, so everything should be good. I could be going in there too. Sometimes, hey, we're not doing wrong because, hey, like I said, Pastor and Sister Emmy probably just eating in there, right? But what would be the impressions of other people that sees them and doesn't know it?
Because actually it happened really at the different national city. Someone saw them eating, they said they just eat. But then it was the news at BBC, one of the people was there. They saw, what are you doing there too? So they say it's others.
You see, okay, so we as Christians our mindset should be stay away from those places, stay away from the appearance of sin. Okay, just like Lot, he did not do anything wrong. He just saw that the thing is good for the herds, for his family. Okay, if you think about it, okay, if you want something good for your family, is it bad or is it good? It's good, right? But yet, at the same time, he did not consider the place is near wickedness. Okay, and later on our study, we will see that, hey, not only did he stay outside of Sodom and Gomorrah, later on, he became part of Sodom and Gomorrah. He became one of the men, if you would say, a political figure right there on Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. So, what we can learn from this study is here. We cannot say, hey, we cannot align ourselves near those places or near sin, and we would not be affected. Nobody's strong. Okay? Nobody's strong at all to resist the temptations. Okay? Look at Lot. He chose the plains of Jordan, and yet after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, where was he living? In a cave. That's where he's living. He lost everything afterwards. Okay. So we need to consider every action as Christians. Okay. We could not tell ourselves, hey, I'm strong, I will not get affected by sin. I could go to the nightclub, sit down in there, listen to the music because I like music, and yet I will not get affected. I'm a Christian, and I am pretty much confident about my Christianity that no matter what people would say would not matter. Remember what Cain had said, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. You're a Christian, look around you. You are your brother and your sisters are right here. Your actions also reflects on the church and on your brothers and your sisters. Next week, we'll continue about the study on the book of Genesis, and we will study about Sodom and Gomorrah. What was the real reason why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? And was it really a pillar of salt? What really happened to that place? Does that place still exist? Okay, that will be our study next week. Questions, concerns? If not, Brother Roger, could you close us in a word of prayer?
Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you again for the rest of the day. Lord, give us wisdom and guidance, Lord. Always keep our eyes on you, Lord. Not be deceived. Lord, things sometimes looks promising, but as it's difficult, Lord. Help us, Lord, to always be mindful of your word, your teaching, Lord. Give us the wisdom and guidance, Lord, to always walk with you. For we know your plan is better than our plan. Thank you again.